Hi, Alex. I'm Kara. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, thank
It's
you.
so great. Yeah, it's so great to have you on this call. So this is just a quick discovery call to learn more about what you're hoping to work on with financial therapy. Of course, talk more about what financial therapy is and answer any questions that you have. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds great. Yes,
Awesome. So I have a couple notes here, a couple questions to ask you. So when you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing is just writing a couple things from what you share. But the main question I always like to ask first is, how did you find me as a financial therapist? Is it a Google
um,
search, a friend? I'm curious.
a friend had told me about it, and that she went through it, and I was wanting to know what that was about. And being a business owner, you have some peaks and valleys, and that you can't. There's a hard time of separating a lot of the professional realm with the personal realm, and so there's been a lot of intertwining of that,
Yeah,
where your financial status or your financial valleys seem to impact you on a personal level as well. And so I
absolutely.
figured, why not? Let's look at this and see if this is something I want to explore. And I'm feeling more and more inclined to do so.
Nice. Well, I appreciate knowing how you found more about financial therapy. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about what to expect today to see how that fits for your goals. I'm hearing you're a small business owner. Can you tell me a little bit
Yes.
more about that and what the goal would be for financial therapy?
Yes. Well, it's a small business. I have a small business, and
Mhm.
as any business, you have seasons. You have great
Right.
seasons, then you have low seasons and peaks and valleys. And I tend to get a lot of anxiety and stress when you hit the valleys, and so I don't like the restlessness, the scarcity mind sense of thinking, and just
Hmm.
a lot of feeling overwhelmed, and asking myself whether I'm going to make it, not going to make it. A lot of internal inner saboteur, inner conversations that happens, and so I feel that I need to really work on those areas so that the business can grow and expand. I need to grow and expand in my mentality as well.
Yeah, I love that. I can definitely tell you've done some of your own work just from how you're talking about scarcity and growth and just like very self-aware. So that's awesome.
Right.
Um, do you know anything about financial therapy outside of what your friend told you and their experience?
Not really, and that's why I'm very inquisitive about what it is and how is it going to work for me. And but I'm definitely open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why we do these discovery calls, so you get a chance of really figuring out what it is. Financial therapy hasn't been around super long, so it's about 2010 to now that it's been really a coined term. And then, of course, we've had a whole group of people make that change and have that be more measurable of like, what is it and how does it actually look? So there's a couple things I want you to know, Alex. The first of which is financial therapy is something that, in comparison to like mental health therapy, goes a little bit faster. So I'm a mentally health trained clinician, but I don't necessarily bring all those skills into financial therapy unless it's warranted and comfortable to the client. But there are kind of three buckets to talk about when it comes to financial therapy work. So those buckets are money healing is the first bucket, which is probably the most close to mental health counseling if you have had that in your past. Is that something you've had before, Alex? Is mental
Yes,
health counseling?
definitely, definitely.
Okay. So very much like that, like going kind of deep, looking back into the past, going as far back as you're willing and comfortable to go. If we can do that work first, a lot of the other buckets have this nice domino effect where they're just positively changed by all the work you're doing in money healing. From money healing, we have money practices, which is what a lot of people come in saying, I've tried some things, I've read a book, I've done a course, I've used an app, but maybe it's not sticking. Maybe they're not feeling like they can follow through on those new skills. Maybe in 30 days, they're like, oh, I let it all go or it didn't work for me. And so I have lots of clients come in with that kind of experience where they've tried some things, but are really frustrated that it's not sticking. And so that money practices is part of our work, but not where we usually start for that reason. That last bucket is money maps. So thinking about where are we mapping your future? Do you want to retire? Do you want to have a second home? Do you want to have children? Just depends on the person's goals. Do you want to sell your business or, as I heard earlier, scale it? So
Mhm.
those are kind of the things we look towards and set some goals around those. What questions do you have about those three buckets so far?
I like the fact that it's intertwined with a lot of the history, and you explore a lot of the genesis of all of your thoughts and where did it
Yeah.
come from and how, because I think that's a lot, it plays a huge piece. Um, my only question is, what success have you guys had with this since it's fairly.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think it's really similar to mental health counseling. It's really you get as much as you put in. So for
Correct.
clients who are willing to go deep into the money healing or have already done a lot of their work, which from your language again, I can tell you have. So that part might feel really like fluid for you and have a really good flow. Based on that, one of the things I like to celebrate is most people see a significant change in their money relationship in 6 to 8 sessions. So it's much shorter than like the EMDR work I'm used to doing on the mental health side, and that hat that I wear. This feels like a really significant shift in a short amount of time. And so I usually ask clients or potential clients to consider 6 to 8 sessions to see if they can see that change. Obviously, it could be shorter than that, could be longer than that, depending on a person's goals. So that's a great question. Another thing that usually comes up in these meetings is talking about the format. So it's usually a 50-minute session, similar to mental health. It can be scheduled weekly, biweekly, or monthly. So just depending on people's preference, how much they want to go into this, also their budget, those are things that matter. Financial therapy is a private pay situation. It's not using insurance. And because of that, I'm actually able to see your clients from other states versus my home state of Colorado here. Any questions about that?
No, that makes sense completely. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm hearing you're a small business owner. As a financial therapist, I've been doing this now for 2 years. After pivoting in the pandemic and wanting to do something a little bit different, I found it was a nice bridge to working with fellow mental health professionals, small business owners, and entrepreneurs. So those are kind of the three groups of people that are drawn to working with me in particular. Also, those creatives, which I can tell you're a creative also by your language, which is awesome. So I've been doing mental health therapy for 12 years, financial therapy for 2, and really like this pivot that I've done to serve these populations. Are there any questions I can answer about who I am and what I do that would help you?
No, just you pretty much answered it, the experience that you got. Did you go through the program as well?
I did. Yes, I'm a huge fan of making sure people do their own work before they do this work with others. So part of my journey was peeling back those layers and looking at all the history and all the messages around money. So a couple things you'll hear me talk about if we decide to move forward together is things about money beliefs. So we can have 50 to 200 beliefs about money, everything from money as power and opportunity to money as corrupt and changes people, right? Whole broad spectrum of beliefs. You'll hear me talk about money scripts, which is a internal system of how we think money works for us or doesn't work for us. And then, of course, just looking at themes. So, looking at what your parents taught you or caregivers, what your first boss taught you, what grad school taught you when you went to grad school, but more specifically, what does business teach you about yourself and money? So, financial therapy in a whole is really helping people figure out how to heal their relationship with money so that they have a better relationship. A lot of people want to feel like they're in control of their money, that their money is not controlling them. So that's why they come in to do this work. What other questions are coming up for you?
Not that I can think of. You've answered
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as we're talking about this a little further, Alex, obviously I'm going to check in with you here in a minute on if this is something you want to try. In the meantime, regardless of if you decide to do financial therapy or not, there is one book that I like to recommend if you're a fan of audiobooks, written books. Obviously, there are lots of ways to take in that information. Are you a reader by chance?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Yes.
So there's one book that I'm a huge fan of. One of the founders of financial therapy is Barry Tesler, and she's located here in Boulder, Colorado. She's a social worker by training and then moved into financial therapy as a natural conversation with clients. She noticed that people were having a lot of hardship around money. In fact, kind of a joke, if you're open to this, is we talk about money like people are more comfortable talking about their sex lives than their money lives. So it's that charge for folks. So if there's anxiety, guilt, worry, my whole job is to come into this with zero judgment and a lot of compassion for folks when they want to do this work. So that's where my mental health hat works really well for this role. So the book that Barry Tesler wrote that I recommend everyone check out is The Art of Money. And so if you want to do anything around that, if we were to move forward together, I always ask people to try and just capture that first chapter. If they can do a little bit of reading or audiobook listening. And that first chapter stirs up some stuff to get us started for the first session. So that's another question that naturally comes up too, Alex, is people say, what should I expect if I decide to go forward with a first session? And that first session is very much collaborative in the sense of us talking together. I might ask you a question like, what are you noticing in your money this week? So you might come at that personally, saying, I noticed something about an unexpected expense, or professionally, something in your business that you're noticing, those peaks and valleys that you mentioned earlier. Any questions about that?
No, 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 thank you. No, I pretty much very clear. Now, is it in person? Is it telehealth?
Great question. Yeah. So most of the time I'm doing telehealth sessions just for convenience, especially because my clients are all over the US right now. So obviously, if they're not here in the state of Colorado where I reside, that would be a barrier. And so most of the financial therapy work I do is telehealth, which works pretty well for small business owners like yourself who might have a lot going on. Is that a barrier for you or is that a good fit?
No, no, that's actually a good fit. I prefer to have it online. Yeah, I prefer to have it.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, do you have any sense of if you want to try this or give a session as
I
first?
Yes, I would love to try it. I definitely would love to try it. And I think when you were talking about the book, I think that will give me a good you address a lot of the anxiety and stress that I do have around it because I'm not gonna lie, the conversation about going back and stirring up and exploring the belief systems, like, oh, that's deep.
It
But
is.
I'm
Mhm.
interested now about the belief systems that I formulated based on my upbringing. And
Absolutely.
yeah, but
There
definitely,
could be
I am
some
definitely
really powerful ahas there for you, Alex. I mean, that's my favorite part. I mean, that's probably why I enjoy people's willingness to go into money healing first as our first bucket, because you can have so many connections that weren't really at the conscious level, but were subconscious that are brought to the table, brought forward. So yeah, I'm excited to work with you. If you're willing to try a first session, I'm happy to bring up the calendar. We can schedule from there if that sounds
yeah,
good.
that works great. That works great.
Perfect.